Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Business Today TV. I am Chetan Bhutani. Well, Business Today TV is at the heart of the ground at Bharat Mandapam at the International Media Center with its continuously rolling coverage of the G20 summit. Well, I'm also today joined by my colleague Karishma Sudani, who handles all matters economics and policy for Ministry of Finance. Thank you, Karishma, for joining us. Give us the key takeaways of the communique and also tell us how did the day one go.
Thank you, Chetan. Quite a day it's been. We weren't really expecting, right, Chetan, that the communique would come a day before. We were all prepared for it to come on day two. But big highlights coming in. The key one, of course, being, and the major one, that a consensus has been achieved. In fact, 9 months of deliberation since the cap was transferred from Indonesia to India, and a lot of discussions held where we were still a bit skeptical of the fact if the leaders would achieve consensus on the Russia-Ukraine, but a more subtle version, I'd say. They've softened the language in the communique when compared to the Bali Declaration, which talks about key deliverables, about close to 112 deliverables, around 83 paragraphs focusing on MDBs, financial stability, sustainable climate resilience pack, which is one of the key highlights of India's G20 presidency. Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday was also sharing. In fact, the British Prime Minister just a minute back also released an official statement that from now on these multilateral forums will try their best to focus more and more on the climate-oriented action agenda. What also followed was key important deliverables focusing on digital public infrastructure, supported, of course, by the initiative of World Bank. But on a whole, I think, as also the leaders have shared, and most of them have shared, that the communique has been a well-balanced approach. May not have been taken well by Ukraine, but it definitely sets a path to Brazil, where the next forum will be held, and of course sets an agenda for these member states along with the newly won, which is the African Union, to deliberate and discuss on policies and measures upcoming.
Well, also, Karishma, today morning we in fact saw the leaders and heads of states visiting Rajghat today morning. Excellent visuals coming out. In fact, Joe Biden has just departed for the United States. Also, Karishma, could you give us what stands different today? One of the biggest announcements yesterday was the economic corridor. So, give us some light before we start our show with Praveen Khandelwal. He's also joining us. So, before I start, tell me the key highlights of the economic corridor.
I think two big words: economic cooperation and digital connectivity.
But that's what Prime Minister also said, that economic corridor would be economic policies and economic corridors as few terminologies and few terms that you will eventually see over the next decade. So yeah,
absolutely. It's I think what the world was focusing on with the earlier arrangement was through the Belt and Road, and here we are talking about the rail and sea. Yeah. So definitely digital connectivity, better economic collaboration for Middle East, India, EU. Looks like a very strong push from the US for obvious reasons on the geopolitical terms. But we need to definitely understand, Chetan, and I'm sure our guest, Mr. Khandelwal, will be able to give us a more deep dive view into how will this also benefit the global south.
Absolutely, Karishma. You are absolutely spot on. And I'd like to now introduce my guest, Mr. Praveen Khandelwal. He is the Secretary General of the Confederation of All India Traders, wherein maximum traders under the country fall under the CAIT. Mr. Khandelwal, thank you so much for joining us at Business Today TV. We are continuously rolling from the International Media Center at the hub at the G20 summit. Mr. Khandelwal, first question to you. You heard about the economic corridor announcement. The first question would the obvious be that what does it entail for the Indian traders? Does it really improve the health of Indian traders and of course the MSME sector?
Well, certainly it is going to change the landscape of Indian export trade, and I'm sure that it will be a milestone in future, because it will link the Indian trade to Europe and Western Asia in a most coordinated manner. The most important thing is that this economic corridor, which has been announced yesterday, will have will have an overall wider reach. Maybe it is through rail line or through roads or through dockyards, or whether it is effective communication or water cable network. And over and above, it has also been announced that a grid will also be made to link the entire economic corridor. So I am particularly sure that now we need not to much depend upon Charbagh area, or the Charbagh passage, which we are highly dependent upon. With the opening of this economic corridor, a new passage will be there for the Indian exports to reach well in time, whether in Western Asia or in Europe. So it is I think it is not only beneficial for the Indian trade, but it is also beneficial for the global trade as well. Like as I say, that Indian exports will benefited in similar terms. It will be benefited for other nations also who are connected with this passage, right from India to America, and of course the Saudi countries. So it could be a golden triangle for Indian trade and for the global trade as well.
Mr. Khandelwal, you also mentioned about exports. Can I ask you what all commodities and what all items are usually can probably go through? Because when you read the communique and when you read the finer details of the announcement, it's very clear that certain products related to energy are required. But India through Chabahar has already started importing and exporting grains. So what all commodities in particular can India benefit from?
Well, if we read the lines what have been enshrined in the document which has been released yesterday about the economic corridor, so I am of the considered opinion that FMCG items, Indian toys, Indian-made computers, technology tools, hospitality sector, Indian food, handicrafts, cloth, fashion apparels, ready-made garments, and of course Indian saris are going to have a wider market, and very soon we will be having a major boost in particularly these sectors. Besides, we have electrical items, we have hardware, and we have so many other items which we would be exporting to developing countries, and I'm sure that we can. I mean, it is an opportunity for Indian traders to fill the gap which may be caused with the absence of Chinese goods. So because China has already made a corridor which goes from Asia, Africa, and Europe. So this economic corridor can give a fitting example, can give a fitting response to Chinese corridor, and this corridor could be more trustworthy.
Right.
Right. Mr. Khandelwal, if I could also try and understand a bit on the compliance measures, how long do you think this could take? Because when we are talking, and of course, while the analogy is a little overwhelming, but if we are drawing an analogy with China, then we do understand that it's quite a history and a bigger block that they have connected, but that's also over the years, over more than 2 decades. How long could this take off to the road of implementation?
Well, we all are eagerly watching the follow-up measures. What I feel as a leader representing the trading community of the country, I think next 90 days would be very crucial, and I am pretty sure that at least a solemn start can take place in 90 days. Later on, the connectivity will start going on. And over a period of 1 year, the economic corridor will be ready, through which we can make optimum usage of exporting goods or importing goods.
Right. Also, Mr. Khandelwal, if I take a cue from my colleague Karishma's question, sir, you talk about the next 90 days being very crucial, but sir, if you'll recall the Chabar port, the issue with Israel on railways has been a pretty long issue where Indian traders have also affected, with the supply of basmati rice is concerned, energy is concerned, grains is concerned. Indian traders have been affected due to issues at Chabar port. Do you think Indian traders should be protected further at this economic corridor level as well?
Absolutely, because up till now we were entirely depending upon the other area what you are mentioning. But now economic corridor can be a substitute for Indian traders, and instead of opting that route, which is providing various problems to us, this route, because India is one of the founder of this economic route, so I'm sure that Indian traders would be now better placed to export their products to different countries, and the Indian economy is having a greater linkage with the countries from which this passage will go, and not only to those countries but the other countries near about as well.
Also, Mr. Khandelwal, if you could give us some numbers right now, how many traders are under CAIT and what percentage of that traders would be capable enough of participating and exporting and importing products from those areas of the, from the Middle East, from the European countries, and of course in the United States. So, give us some numbers there, sir. How many traders stand to benefit, and how much percentage of the GDP could probably be further added?
See, right at the moment, nearly 15 lakh traders are engaged in export businesses of different commodities. And but with the creation of this economic corridor, I think we would be able to penetrate down the line. There are thousands and thousands of other small manufacturers and traders in India, those who are producing international quality goods, but they were not having the proper infrastructure. But with this economic corridor, at least the infrastructure will be there. So I think these numbers can go into lakhs, but we have to now look for the follow-up exercises being undertaken by the countries who have joined hands together to get this Indian Middle East Europe economic corridor.
Also, Mr. Khandelwal, would you be engaging with the government on being proactive in participating in this corridor? Have you probably decided amongst yourself what is CAIT thinking? Are you kind of having your sammelan usually that you do when a big government announcement comes? So, is there a plan, sir? What is the plan of action next at the CAIT?
Fortunately, we are having an important conference of trade leaders of the country on 14th and 15th of this month at New Delhi. And yesterday, after the creation of this corridor, we have included a discussion on this economic corridor agenda also. So definitely we would be, in the days to come, we will understand the whole nitty-gritty of this economic corridor, and we will identify what all the items which can be benefited with this economic corridor, and then we will be reaching out to all those traders, giving them information and all that, that now they should be prepared. Once this corridor takes place, then they will have to engage aggressively for exporting Indian products, because I think this is the right time, at the golden time for Indian traders to have good businesses through this economic corridor.
Right. Also, Mr. Khandelwal, if the government is being so proactive in making this corridor, and if India plans to have a massive export-import plans and easing importing restrictions and exporting restrictions, do you think there are certain items? I'm sure you have also, over a period of years, highlighted this fact. Do you think there should be some easing in import duty and export duties respectively in certain items? Could you give us some details there? If the corridor gets implemented, what probably could be the problematic factor?
Yeah.
Chetan, before replying to this question, I think because I am watching media is not so far has not evaluated the importance given by this declaration to the MSME sector, which is very noteworthy. The declaration
Right.
says to give all ample opportunities to the MSME sector to develop, because everybody feels that MSME is the backbone of economy of any country. So therefore, if you just go through that declaration, it has got various provisions which they intend to implement not only in India but all the G20 countries, and now Africa has also joined G20. So therefore, it is G21 through which all these visions will be discussed and implemented. So in that way, when this economic corridor will be there, then necessary support for the MSMEs is on the anvil now. Government will carve out policies to encourage and promote the Indian SMEs to produce quality goods. Already we have quality control orders in place for various items, and that is the work which has been done by Ministry of Commerce before creation of this East Europe Economic Corridor. So therefore, I feel that it is a well-drawn strategy. Already much work has been done since last more than 1 year. Now this announcement of corridor has come up. So I think we are the country is quite ready. The traders are quite ready. But now we need to engage with the government to have the centric policies which can benefit the traders and the SMEs to produce more quality goods in a more congenial atmosphere. And we have something about the taxation system also. So they have discussed 2-point taxation system. So therefore, it is all ease of doing business, which has also been a part of the declaration. So in totality, if from the perspective of a trader or an entrepreneur, if I see this declaration is going to change the entire landscape, at least in these G21 countries. So I think there are a lot more opportunities, and I would certainly request media through you and to other people also to just highlight also the MSME sector, which has got prominence in this leadership declaration.
Mr. Khandelwal, last question to you before I conclude and go across to my colleague Karishma. Mr. Khandelwal, you raised a very important point on MSMEs and the quality control orders. The government, yes, has been very proactive in implementing QCOs for avoiding cheap imports. But what about MSMEs, sir? Could you give us a number on MSMEs that could probably be affected or probably could get good export-import orders? Any numbers to that, sir?
Right at the moment, it is very difficult to list out the numbers, but I think if right steps are taken proactively by the government in consultation with the trade associations, the number could be in lakhs. Now we are ready. We are producing international quality goods now, and the passage is there, market is there. We have to make a linkage of that. And I think the approach of G20 summit clearly lays down a fundamental policy that linkage will not be a problem. So therefore, everybody is eager. Let's hope for the best when we all join hands together to ensure a speedy growth of business in Indian trade.
So, Mr. Khandelwal, do you think it's a big win-win for traders and MSMEs?
I really think so, because we were working with the government since last more than 2-3 years, and now we have understood. The government has already spelled out the priorities, not only the government but the entire G20. So now I think we will be having a major shift in the policies, and it will be MSME centric policies now. This is what I feel.
Well, Mr. Khandelwal, thank you so much, and we really hope that the traders body and the MSME sector get what it's due for. Thank you, Mr. Khandelwal, for joining us, and I'll now switch to Karishma. Karishma, great comments by Mr. Khandelwal on how it's a big win-win situation for them. Now, I'd like to come to the main point for the G20 summit. What's there in the day at the day 2 for the summit? What can we expect? What kind of deliberations would happen? Give us some information there.
Chetan, quite an unconventional start, I must say, because we're already underway and it's about to finish because we started early, and Prime Minister Modi, of course, welcomed the guest at Rajghat in Delhi. Well, quite a visual to watch, barefoot world leaders walking the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi, and that followed, of course, the spouses, that is the wives of the global leaders who have been having their own parallel session in the cultural center. So the day is already there. We also had with the third session on future that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with, of course, other global leaders and the member states of G20 have been deliberating on. What we're expecting today is some key important details pertaining to the communique, followed, I think it's going to be more of a subtle continuation of what happened yesterday. But who's absent? And it is the US president.
Yes, he's departed for the United States.
He's actually back to Vietnam because he's holding a bilateral meeting there. So definitely, I think I'm going to highlight Voice of the Global South.
The Voice of the Global South is a clear message from the G20, and this is a wrap on the show. Stay tuned for Business Today for more rolling coverage at the G20. Thank you so much for watching.